So search engine optimization, what's involved in that? Well, quite a bit, and that's why we're here really. So what is it? Well, a query on a search engine often turns up thousands or even millions of matching web pages. They appear in what's known as a SERP, or a search engine result page. Normally, there's 10 results on a page, but you can configure it in different ways for different search engines. But by and large, if I asked you how many of you went to the page 2 or page 3 or page 4 or page 5 when you're searching for something, so in other words, go to the 12th or the 13th result, most of you would say, well, not very often. Some people might say, well, it depends on how desperate I am as to finding the result that I'm looking for. Most people, if they don't find it on the first page, will probably reconfigure their keywords in some way, shape or form and go again. Okay, so to be quite honest, it says the 10 most relevant matches appear on the first page. Now, I'm going to put inverted commas around the word relevant because that's what we're looking at. How do we know something is relevant? And relevant to what? Well, relevant to our keywords. But then again, all keywords are not made equally either. So we're going to have a look at this over the next while as to figure out exactly how do we get in the 10 most relevant matches and what is the word relevant, what does it apply to, and it applies to lots of different little characteristics that we mentioned earlier on. Okay, so with this in mind, I'm just going to show you two little charts, both of them fairly ugly, but just bear with me a second. This is the first one here, and this is Google's own bit of research. And regardless of whether, what keywords we're searching for or what we're looking for, what they're saying here is, and this, you'll get used to this and you'll see this, and I think this is quite interesting, all right? You can see 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 results on the page here. And you can see the first one, the percentage of clicks, 56% of people click on the first link. All right, and that quickly drops off to 13, 9, 4, 4. Now, what is interesting about this, and this is human nature as well, you can see on the sixth one down here that it goes from 3.27 to the seventh one, is it 7.1 or 6.1, goes to 0.36. So it drops right off to under 1% of the clicks and then picks up again. Now this is quite common, and you'll notice yourself doing this from time to time. When you're looking at your at a set of results, if you don't find what you're looking for in the first one or the second one, you quickly scan the page. And what actually happens is you scan over the 5, 6s and 7s pretty quickly, and you end up on the 9s, 8, 9s and 10s on the bottom. And quite often we see something there that might be of interest, we click on it. So it's not unusual that that the last one there actually gets more clicks than the second last one or the fourth last one. So that's not unusual. Now, what is interesting also is that over 50% of the time spent on the site is on the first two sites. So what we're actually saying is that it's very important for us to get in the top 10, but we're also saying that there is a huge difference on engagement levels between the first two and even the third one and the fourth one, fifth one, sixth one. So it drops off very, very quickly. Now, what I have, again, is a very ugly graph here, so apologies for this. But I kind of like it because of the fact that it's so obvious what's going on here. The percentage of total click-throughs versus the position in the search engine result page, okay? So you can see 1 to 10 goes from 42% down to 2.9%. But what's really important here, and what I like about this, it is an ugly graph, but from 10 to 11 drops from 2.9% right down to 0.6 and so on. So what we see is the amount of people, the number of people that go to the second page is far less than the ones viewing the first page. So while you might be number 11 or 12 on a search engine results page, it actually, if we could possibly bump ourselves up into 8, 9 or 10, it would actually get us an awful lot more traffic and an awful lot more click-throughs. So it's really important to keep changing and updating, and we don't change willy-nilly, that we change it based on what we've seen on previous days, weeks, months, in our Google Analytics. So it's really important to, what we, measure and then manage. Okay. So really important to look at those things. Okay. Time for another little exercise. Okay. So at this stage, we're looking at exercise 3, and it's your initial impressions. Okay. So what I'm going to say about this is very straightforward. What I want you to do, if you haven't already, and hopefully you have already had a look at the initial impressions and actually done this little exercise, but if you haven't, I want you to just take a few minutes, take 10 or 15 minutes to do this exercise, and if you could do it in a group of 3, that would be brilliant. Okay. And if you can't, I want you to do it on your own. So it's well worth the time that you spend, but it's nice to have, it's nice to have a group to have these discussions, because the initial impression, is interesting, but it is fairly subjective. Okay, so that's why it's important for us to maybe, our impression of a website might be quite different than somebody else's impression. And that's why it's important for us to keep audience in mind as well, because it depends on, lots of different things, age, gender, etc. Okay, as to what your impression of different things are and would be. So anyway, I'll just jump in here and have a look at what the actual exercise 3 is. Okay, so I want you to divide into groups of 3 if you possibly can, and jot down your thoughts and initial impressions of the 3 following websites. And what we look at here, I'm not going to go into these websites now, but it's just, there is a link on each one of these pages for the website, so you can actually go and have a look at those. Okay, so in our case here, we can jump into each one of them. So just simply click on the image, it'll bring you to the monoface, or it'll bring you to the Seeds of Conflict one, or it'll bring you to the Red Bull one here. So but I want you to just, like, literally your initial impressions. Okay, so what you think of it. Now, I don't want anyone describing the page to me. I don't want to say, with the monoface one, there's a head in the middle of it, and you can change the different aspects of the face by clicking on the eyes or the nose or the mouth or the ears or whatever the case might be. Okay, I don't want the description. What I want is your impression. So what do you feel about this? Do you like it? Do you not like it? Do you understand it? Do you not understand it? What do you think is good about it or bad about it? So I want you to be, to make decisions, okay, and formulate impressions, and of all 3 sites. So, just jot them down, half page each would be absolutely great. Okay, so at least you've actually done this, because this is part of any search engine audit, is that you will actually formulate an impression of the site. Okay, and if you can't do that, as I said, I don't want the description, I want an impression of the site. And then the second part of this is, I want you to figure out, why have I chosen all 3 of these sites? What have they got in common? Okay, so that's another little question. So, and hopefully, we can get results from that and answers from that. So, so have a little think about that. So if you haven't done this already, pause the video right now and have a go at it. Okay, what does the website look like? What does our website look like? And the answer to this question, along with so many other questions, well, it depends on who is asking. Now, what do I mean by that? So if I look at a website, just say I look at TU Dublin's website, I see something like this, okay? And I see, okay, and I use it and I like it or I dislike it. I find it user-friendly, or I find it easy to find information, or I find it clunky, or I find it difficult, or whatever I do, okay? So, I formulate my impression and I see what I see, okay? So that's what a user sees. And then on the other side, we have what a search engine sees, okay? Now, why is this so important? Well, as we've heard earlier on when we were doing exercise 2 on the fun quiz, is that search engines cannot see images. So if I have a graphically heavy website with lots of images that look great, the user might like it, but the search engine isn't getting the information that it needs from it. So all of these things are important for us, and we must keep them in mind as to what we're doing and how we're going to do it, okay? Okay, I'm going to click on the webconf.com, and this is called Spider Simulator. So if you go into Google and you type in search engine Spider Simulator, you'll get the exact same website we're going to go to, but it's webconf.com. Okay, so I'm going to click on that link, and it's going to bring me to the website. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just look at this. Now, what this actually does is it shows us what a spider will see. Okay, so I'm just going to have a quick look at a site here, for instance. Okay, and I'm going to look at it at the TU Dublin website here, and you can see here that, you know, when I move across the top here, there's links to different things and so on. So study and research and connect, explore courses and so on. You can see these lovely bits of text here and so on. Then you go down through and find the course Life at TU Dublin, and you can see facts and figures and so on. Okay, and you can see at the bottom here you got news and events, and you can see different things here and so on. And at the very, very bottom you see a number of links going to study, undergraduate, postgraduate and so on, and all these links to external bodies. Okay, now I'm just going to show you, that's what we see when we go to a website. When we go to the exact same website, I'm just going to copy the URL here, and we go to the search engine simulator here, and you type it in, and tudublin.ie. There's a CAPTCHA here with T61, okay, and then I go submit. Now this is what the search engine sees from the exact same site, okay. Now this is interesting when you look at it here, right? This is the list of stuff that they see. They will see home, TU Dublin, all these actual words, but they're not links, as you can see here. Then you turn around, you can see stuff about Professor Brian O'Neill speaking, and that's off down here, okay? When you see this, Professor Brian O'Neill speaking and stuff like that, so it's taking that text. So there's not that much text that it's taking from that page, but then again, there isn't a huge amount of text on that particular page. When you see at the bottom inquiries, Blanchardstown and so on, that's taken from right at the very bottom down along here as well, okay? General inquiries, Blanchardstown and so on, okay? So what it also looks at is spidered links, and this is important here. These are all the links that it actually follows. So you can see all the links down along here. There's a lot of links on this particular page that it actually follows, and therefore it captures information and indexes the information from those particular links as well. Then we see meta keywords and we see meta description. Okay, they're the things that search engines see that humans normally don't see. But you can see there's a lot of information that is capturing and gathering. Okay, now I'm going to use the exact same spider simulator to have a look at one of the sites that we looked at. And I'm going to just look at the first one here. I'm not going to go through them all. And it's the monoface site that we've looked at. Okay, this one here, and you looked at it in your example in your exercise earlier on and what it does and so on. So you can see, you can play around with these things and so on. Okay, so I'm going to capture the name up here, which I've done, copy that, and I'm going to go into my spider simulator, look for that, and my captcha is A359D. Okay, and I'm going to submit that. Now, this is what I'm talking about here. This is all they see. Spider text, one word, monoface. Spidered links, none. So when a search engine comes to this site, they see one word, this word. Everything else, they don't see a thing. They don't see any of this stuff here. They don't see any of those links here. They don't see anything, all right? They don't follow any link. And the only words that are interesting here to it is advertising, agency, broadcast, print, interactive, and so on, and description here. So what I'm trying to say is what we see as a human being is something like this, which is, you know, very interactive. Some of you are wondering what it actually does, but very engaging, very interactive. A lot of time and effort is spent creating this website. There's no doubt there. There's a lot of design gone into it, a lot of hours spent creating the content that goes into it and so on. But when you look at what the search engine sees, is absolutely nothing in comparison to what we see. So what I'm trying to say is, how do most people find sites? Through search engines. So in this particular monoface's case, it doesn't see anything. It can't follow anything. It doesn't even recognize anything. And so it's completely ignoring the search engine as a channel to market their product. Now that is absolutely ridiculous considering the time and the effort they placed on this. Okay. Now to lesser extents, the same with Cloud over Cuba and the same with Red Bull. Okay. While they put huge time and effort into these, what they see, what the search engine sees, is very, very little. And to be quite honest, they are not achieving their potential in any way, shape, or form. And they're actually ignoring stuff that really is important to the whole process. Okay. So, as I said, what we see is very different than what the search engine sees. And on top of that, when you look at these sites, a monoface on a mobile, it can't load it at all. So, to be quite honest, you've got to start thinking about how optimized is this? And the answer is not very. How well thought out is this from a digital marketing perspective? Not very. Okay, so you've got to remember is what we see is different than what a search engine sees. So what we're going to spend a little bit of time on in the next tutorial is actually what does a search engine see and what's important for a search engine. Okay, so when I looked at the TU Dublin site, there is a bit of stuff in there and it's good in comparison. Could it be better? Absolutely, it could be better. But it's way better than the monoface and the Cuban site, so on. Okay.